Look what I found on my pile, ASL Journal 14. The Academy has never been known to be organized, so let's do an unboxing. Yeah, I must be falling down on the job. I'm discovering things in my ASL pile that I either forgot I had or didn't even know I had. I was looking through my pile yesterday and found this, and I swore I did a video of this unpacking, unboxing, but I find no record of it, so let's do one now. ASL Journal 14. When did this come out? Spring? Early summer? Something like that? Shortly on the heels of ASL Journal 13, but this one is a Aussie special edition, and we'll just go through it real quick. It is created by Andy Rogers and the gang down under. Andy Rogers is known for Hatton and Flames historical module, as well as the action pack. I forget what number it is offhand. Oh, here it is. Action pack. I think it was 16 from the Land Down Under. He did all those packs on that historical module, and he's responsible for this entire annual. Let me get this stuff out of the way. This entire annual that has an Aussie theme. Not everything in it is Aussie or Anzac related, but it's the theme of the entire journal. So go back one page to the table of contents. I think there are about 12, 14 articles in here. Here's the intro talking about the theme of the journal 14. Here's a list of the articles. Like I said, there's about 14 of them or so. And we start with Aussie and Kiwi stories, kind of a historical article, and how it relates to things like the ASL Action Pack 16 and some of the scenarios contained in those two, not Hand and Flames, but in Action Pack 16, which is From the Land Down Under. Battle for Crete, a historical perspective. Anzacs were involved in this, and actually visited Crete. Oh, when was that? 10, 11 years ago, I think it was now. Actually, in Chania here, and there's a World War II memorial there, and maybe I'll put up some of the photos I took there up in one of these corners as I go through here. But this article is about Anzac involvement in the Battle of Crete, and it shows here some of the scenarios involved, and I'm not sure. It doesn't say which the source of these modules or scenarios. J165, 161 are probably from the Land Down Under. Played Anzac Boys. Scott and I played that one. I'm not sure where the other ones come from, except this one's probably from Land Down Under as well. I think there's a long replay of Anzac Boys in here as well. So this is a kind of a historical article about the Battle for Crete and Anzac, which stands for Australian and New Zealand, basically, forces. And here's a scenario replay of the Anzac Boys. We played this. This is, what's this, end of turn one. Looked very similar to ours. Yeah, I remember I played the Anzac side, Commonwealth side. My mortar ended up there as well. I had an 8-1 here, or an 8-0 here, I think, instead of an 8-1. I think the 8-0 is over here, so those are swapped. But my setup looked the same, pretty much the same. Their scenario, which is being played by the scenario designer and another Aussie, Aaron. Clearly, they probably have way more experience on the subtleties of the scenario. I did not fare as well with the Commonwealth when I played. I think it's 5 turns. I think we made it as far as turn 3-4, and the Aussies really didn't have a chance, so we threw in the towel. So I either did something wrong, or I can't remember, or I had really bad dice, or a combination of the two. It didn't go well for the Anzac Commonwealth. So if you're familiar with scenario replays, here are all the gory details. I have not gone through this. I just kind of skimmed it and saw the results. It looks like it was a very close game, and the Commonwealth, I think, just barely won from the look of it. And then here's an article, again, by Andy Rogers, Magnificent 7, Tournament Play Options. These are scenarios, 7 scenarios from this journal recommended for tournament play. So if you're looking for tournament scenarios, short scenarios that are short in turn length and probably play fairly quickly, here are 7 options for you from this very journal. Okay. Looks like some errata. We include here errata for 2 of the scenarios from Journal 13, 2 scenarios from Winter Offensive 14, and some fixes for Chapter SM from Drop Zone Historical. Didn't know those were in here, so that's good. Hatton and Flames Revisited. Here's an article, again, by Andy, who designed Hatton and Flames. Talks about basically the Hatton and Flames historical module, revisiting that. Here's an ad for Marco Polo Bridge historical. That's coming for both. There's going to be a version for both full ASL and starter kit. Unfortunately, from the information I have, unless they've changed it, you'll have to buy each one separately. They won't come in one box. There won't be both versions in one box, which is unfortunate, especially for us completionists. It's just going to cost me more money. My choice, but I don't have to do it. Let's see, Andy Rogers again, bringing a Mark IV to a tank fight. I think it talks about using earlier war, how the Germans use earlier war Panzer IVs in later war actions and how well they fared, which was not very well. Hatton and Flames, the stalemate continues, and I think it's in reference to Hatton and Flames. It's an extension of what happened in Hatton and Flames. More Hatton and Flames here. Here shows tank losses for Hatton and Flames 9 to 20 January 1945. I don't know if, I assume the locations are approximately where the vehicles, half tracks, and tanks were lost. That's kind of interesting. Losses were pretty equal. 44 AFVs, 6 APCs for the Americans, 47 AFVs, and 12 APCs for the Germans. Here's a little graphic showing the design of the Hatton and Flames map, going from topographical maps to historical area maps to a first draft map in PageShop Pro to the final map of Hatton and Flames. It's kind of cool. I wish this was big. I wish this was a full page so I could see the graphics better, because I'm fascinated by ASL maps. On the website asl-players.net, I do a spotlight that goes over, not all of, but I've started doing ASL historical maps, both multi-man publishing and third party, that shows, I try to show where the map comes from and how it compares to historical maps, either aerial maps or military planning maps, and how close the ASL map matches with history. Some of them are very, very close. Some of them, some liberties have been taken, but I'm always fascinated by this process. Sparrow Force stories, which is one of the topics of this journal contains a mini historical called Sparrow Force. And Sparrow Force are the Australian forces that defended the island of Timor. And the historical module that's in here, which I'll go over in a little bit, is a small historical map of some of the fighting on that island involving the Sparrow Force. This is an article about that and showing their activity in the South Pacific at that time. And there are some org structures here. Nice historical article. Let's see, we switch? No, it's the same one. Now we're getting into, it looks like they're talking about the actual tactics of the historical game. You can see a kind of a preview of the map. I don't think this is the whole map. It's just, I think, the upper part of it here. It's a little bit bigger than that, but it's a pretty cool looking map. All the King's Enemies by Andy again. Talking about the 17th Australian Infantry Brigade, 1940 to 1945. More historical articles on the Aussies. Then they go into detail. Got a trio of gentlemen here. Scenario breakdown, dingoes at Damore. And they each go through talking about the defense, things to consider, defense, and options for attacking in that scenario, which is AP 163. That must be from Action Pack 16 from the Land Down Under, I'm guessing. Aussie and Kiwi Stories Part 2, some more historical information about Anzacs. I think we're almost there, yes. And then some thoughts on the Sparrow Force mini campaign game, which I'll go over here shortly, like I said. And then ASL Journal 14, all the, if you're into reading history, all the references for information contained in here, and probably the Sparrow Force mini campaign game. Then in the back here, we have a little advertisement. Coming soon, Twilight of the Reich. This was supposed to go on pre-orders this year, and we're almost at the end of November. I'm assuming it's not going to happen. This is Summer 44. It's kind of late-ish war. As it says here, Twilight of the Reich focuses on the final struggle to eliminate Axis resistance across a range of urban and industrial settings and introduces debris and rail cars into the core ASL rule set. And it introduces a bunch of new boards as well. It's not a historical. I believe it's a themed module, but not a full historical with big historical maps, but probably a bunch of themed boards and themed scenarios for this action, Twilight of the Reich. Next up, we have the scenarios from Journal 14. There are, let's see, 24 scenarios, 3 of which are directly connected to or from the Sparrow Force mini campaign game. I took those out of here, and I'll go over those briefly when we go over the Sparrow Force mini campaign game. But let's go through these first. These are all designed by Andy Rogers or other people associated with the group from Australia. This one being Paul Siege. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that right. And not all of these involve Anzac troops. Many of them do, but not all of them. As you can see here from latecomers, it is Italian and French, early war France. And again, some of these are recommended as tournament scenarios per the article or per the section in. If I can find it real quick right here. Maybe I'll put this on the side and see if I can point out which ones are the tournament scenarios. Yeah, okay. Latecomers, 223. Posts, 911. I have not read through these. I don't know why that's named post 911 or 9. Oh, okay. 9 through 11. Got it. Where is this? Libya. Desert rules in effect. Boards 80. Doesn't look like it. 83 and 82. But it is night rules are in effect for this. This is Italian and Aussies. At the fleet of Zeus, German New Zealanders, 1941, 6.5 turns. No armor here, no armor there. Didn't notice Yeah, some light armor here on the previous one. 226, Drawing the Crow. This one's on Crete, German Aussies, 1941. No armor, but we have some artillery guns. And this is where we skip over a bit. Well, there's this one here, which is on the back of one of the campaign game scenarios. Look at the printing job I got on this. That's not cool. This is the first recommended tournament scenario. Another frustrating day. 5.5 turns on Crete. This is Partisans. It's got an interesting map set up. Oh 05, is that a ocean overlay? Maybe? All infantry scenario. And then on the back of this is a Sparrow Force campaign game scenario. I'll cover those in a minute. J231, Cooking Up a Storm. This takes place, it's a standalone scenario. I mean, the campaign games are standalone, but they're linked. This is just purely a standalone Australian Japanese on the Sparrow portion of the Sparrow Force map. Cooking Up a Storm, West Timor, 1942. SSRs are, it says CSP SSR. Is that supposed to be SF? Sparrow Force SSRs? Maybe. Aussie Spirit, again on the Sparrow Force map. Japanese Australian, I think. No, next one. Rough Riders is a recommended tournament scenario. Look at these guys, Japanese units start striped. I don't think I've ever seen a scenario where Japanese forces have started the scenario already striped. Same with this one here, Rough Riders on Timor. All of these that use the Sparrow Force are on some portion of this map that's part of Timor. Light tanks here, all infantry here. Buckley's Chance, Timor again, some light armor, Japanese Australians obviously. Irksome Rear Guard, uh, Papua, Eora Creek, Papua. All infantry, some guns. Deadly Dexter, Australian Japanese. Lababia Ridge, New Guinea, 1943. Let's see, 237. 237, this is a recommended tournament scenario. Looks like it starts in the pre-dawn, so low visibility. Japanese, Aussies. Japanese, Aussies. Derek Show. Saddleburg, New Guinea, 1943. All infantry. Striped. Japanese again. Shoot or Shovel. Looks like we have Marine Corps, U.S. Marine Corps versus Japanese. Cape Eboshi, New Britain, December 43. This is a recommended tournament scenario. Yeah, shoot or shovel. No armor. Hurricane Biak. Japanese. Looks like just regular U.S. Army. Biak Island, Dutch New Guinea, 1944. 241. It's a battlefield. Looks like we're back to Europe. Yeah, France, 1944. A few days after D-Day Normandy. Got armor and infantry here. 241, 242. Courage of Cowan, Belgium, U.S. Germany. Sore Thumb. Right, this is a recommended tournament scenario. Low visibility is in effect first two turns. France, 1945. Getting late in the war here. And 244, recommended tournament scenario. Bowden's Woods or Bowden's Woods. France, 1945. And this is the last recommended tournament scenario. Factory Fodder, American, German, again in France, 25 January. And then loser takes all. 6-turn Russian German in this pack here, in this journal here. 6 turns. Got some big guns here. 1945. Oh, it's in Hungary. Yeah, this is getting late in the war on the Eastern Front. So that's it for the regular scenarios. Next, I'm going to jump into the Sparrow Force mini campaign game. The Sparrow Force mini campaign game is a little bit different than your typical large multi-man publishing campaign game. It follows a similar structure in that there are interconnected campaign games, but in this case, campaign games are three, or campaign game dates are three that are three interconnected scenarios. Between the three campaign game dates, typically you would spend campaign purchase points on units in between those dates. But for this mini campaign game, you actually spend campaign purchase points during each scenario during the turn. So you buy reinforcements during the actual scenario that come on the map during the scenario. And then when that scenario is over, there's a refit phase. It's a slimmed down version of most multi-man publishing refit phases. And you determine what kind of victory one side or the other has, and you get victory points, and then you can get a victory point bonus, and then you play all three of them, all three of the scenarios, which I'll show here in a second, and whoever wins the final scenario, campaign game date 3, ends up winning the mini historical campaign game. Okay, there's only like 2.5 pages of very reasonable size, 2.5 pages of campaign game rules. Very little terrain differences. Talks about reinforcement groups here on the first page. A little history, a little bit on terrain and maybe units. And then it gets into refit groups and campaign purchase points. And then it gets into the three campaign game scenarios: Flying Samurai, Tasmanian Devils, Battle for Babua, which I'll show here. Talks about team play, end of campaign game, the refit phase. Most refit phases for campaign games is 2 or 3 times this length. This is a very slimmed down version of the refit phase. Cleaning up, victory type determination, if it's an out for each scenario. Campaign game day 1, which is end of scenario 1. Campaign game 2, which is the end of scenario 2. What type of victory it is for each side, from Australian outright victory to Japanese outright victory, depending on how the victory points for each of those scenarios plays out. And then apparently you get a bonus victory point bonus table depending on which side won and how handily they won. And that rolls over into the total victory points for day 3, scenario 3. And whoever has the most at the end of campaign game 3, in other words, who wins it, wins the campaign game. And I assume these victory points carry into that. So you have a running accumulation of victory points to determine the winner. And then more cleaning up here. And fortification purchase table. Okay. And designer credits, most of the work, Andy Rogers, playtesters, etc. Some gentlemen from Multi-Man Publishing. And then I usually do a flyover of the historical map. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show the mini version, and then I'm going to throw the full map up here to show you how big the hexes are, because it has oversized hexes, which is nice. So here's the overall map with the two small villages. Very cool looking map in my opinion. Not overly big. The fold-out map is maybe, I don't know, is there a size on the shipping? Yeah. The fold-out map is basically 22 inches by 32 inches. Not a huge map. Very reasonably sized. Here's a kind of a side view of that. Let's look at the campaign game scenarios so I can kind of show you how they work. And I just skimmed the rules briefly. So campaign game day 1 is Flying Samurai. Let me put 1 over here and 2 over here. These two play on the full map. Here's your starting forces for each side, and then here are the refit groups that you can buy, and when you can buy them, and how much they cost. And then down here it tells you how many campaign purchase points each side accumulates through the scenario each turn, and you can either, as you accumulate points as the scenario progresses through the turns, you can buy units anytime. You can save all your points up for a later turn. You can buy them immediately when you have enough points to buy them, and then they come on. I think it's in the rules that I just showed. It tells you where they come on the map board for each side. So it's a very dynamic play mechanic that typically these refit campaign purchase points is usually done, between the campaign game dates here. You accumulate, you finish a scenario or a campaign game date, you get purchase points, campaign purchase points, and you buy your units here, and they roll over to here. And in this one, you buy them during the game as the game actually progresses, and they come on the board right away. Now, I'm not sure. I didn't glean from skimming that how if the units carry over to the next scenario. If someone's played this or read it, everything in detail, maybe post in the comments below and let me know. I don't know how it carries forward to the next campaign game date. So here's campaign game date 2. Same mechanics. You just might have slightly different refit groups for each side, and maybe the points accumulate slightly differently. And the victory conditions are probably a little bit different, but basically you're fighting in this area over those 2 villages. And then campaign game date 3 only takes place on about half of the map during the last date. And here are your campaign purchase point tables, refit groups for each side. And again, the rules, whoever has the most victory points at the end, depending on how these 2 scenarios went and what sort of victory point bonuses each side gets rolled into the final scenario. Whoever has the most victory points at the end would win the 3 scenario mini historical campaign game, Sparrow Force. Now let's look at the map real quick here. I just folded out a section of it here. Let me throw a couple counters down. You can see the size of the hexes. I don't know. The counter density doesn't look too bad. But the scenario map gives you room to breathe. I don't think the counter density is really high on this one for the size of the map. Seems very reasonable, very very cozy, comfortable map to move your counters around with the oversized hexes and the density of the units. All right, Sparrow Force. Maybe I can fold it out one more. Got some rice patties here. All right, that's it for quite a decent amount of content. You got 24 scenarios, bunch of articles, and a mini campaign game. And I don't recall offhand now what this costs, but can't believe I forgot to do a video of this. I completely forgot I had this, to be honest, until I went through my stack the other day, and there's more stuff in there that I discovered. So maybe there'll be some videos in the future. All right, that's it for ASL Journal 14 Aussie Special Edition. Thanks for watching. Give me a sub, a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.